This is Superior Court. Here, the members of the community face and dispense justice through the cornerstone of the American Constitution, the jury trial. What you are about to see is a dramatization of an actual trial. Well, it's not really an actual trial, but it is an actual dramatization of a trial. And the participants are actors. Well, they're not really actors, they're lawyers, which will explain their acting. They have gathered here to show through demonstration how a trial actually works. The police have made an arrest. The accused, under our laws, has the right to a full public trial. The accused has chosen to exercise that right. The prosecution is ready, the defense is ready. You are the jury. The case is entitled The State of Arizona versus Goldilocks. The accused, Locks, Goldie. Female Caucasian, 5'6", 120 pounds. Hair, flaxen gold. Eyes, blue as the summer sky. Looking slightly younger than her 150 years. Miss Locks is charged with 3 felony crimes: burglary, criminal damage over $100, and theft of personal property, to wit, an undetermined amount of porridge. The prosecutor is I.M. Thimmon.
That's the man.
The man. The prosecutor is I.M. the man. His job is to present evidence gathered by the state in order to try to convince you, the jury, that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant, Ms. Locks, is represented by Dan Justice. He will question the prosecution's witnesses to see if they are telling the truth. He may also present witnesses to testify on behalf of Goldilocks. However, the law does not require Goldilocks to present any witnesses at all. In our society, a person is not required to prove his or her innocence. Instead, the state is required to prove that she is guilty. We are almost ready to begin. The trial will be presided over by Judge Wendy Wapner.
Superior Court of the State of Arizona is now in session. Judge Wendy Wapner presiding.
State of Arizona versus Goldilocks. Is the state ready to proceed?
Ready, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
Ready? When I get through with the prosecutor's case, he's going to have to carry it home in a hefty bag. You bet we're ready, Judge.
Mr. Justice, just answer the question.
Ready, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, this will be a fairly short case. First, I'll tell you the order of the proceedings. The prosecution has an opportunity to make an opening statement. After the opening statement by the prosecution, the defense attorney then has an opportunity to present an opening statement, after which the prosecution will present its witnesses. The defense then has an opportunity to present any evidence and witnesses it wishes. The state, again, can then present rebuttal evidence. It has an opportunity to proceed first and last because it has the burden of proof. The lawyers will then have a chance to argue the evidence to you in closing arguments. After that time, the case will be handed over to you for your deliberation and determination. Mr. Prosecution, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, the opening statement is the chance that the lawyers have to tell you what the evidence will show. And we believe that the evidence will show, in this case, that the defendant broke into the home of 3 citizens of Pima County, Mr. and Mrs. Manny Barolow and their little boy, Theodore. Without permission and without consent, she entered that home to commit a theft. And she did commit a theft, and she stole an undetermined amount of porridge. But she wasn't finished. No, she wasn't finished. Stuffed with the purloin porridge, she raced through the house, destroying everything in her path, including an antique chair that had been in the Barolow family for generations. Now, we don't know why she did this. We don't know if she did it because she liked it, or because a voice in her head told her to do it, or if she was looking for something to steal, probably to buy drugs.
Objection, Your Honor. There's no evidence of that. That's prejudicial.
Members of the jury, what the lawyers say is not evidence. It's merely what they think the evidence will show. I'm going to ask that you keep your decision based on the evidence you hear from the witness stand. Mr. Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Members of the jury, the state will show beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Ms. Goldilocks, entered the home of Mr. and Mrs. Manny Barlow without permission, committed a theft therein, and committed criminal damage over $100 by breaking the chair. The evidence will show it beyond a reasonable doubt, and we will ask you to return a guilty verdict. Thank you.
Does the defense wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've heard some awfully fine words by the prosecutor here, but fine words aren't evidence. They're speeches. And just as the judge told you, you have to decide this case based on the evidence. What the prosecutor didn't tell you is far more significant than what he did tell you. What he neglected to say in this case is that my client, Goldilocks, was out in the woods one morning, the forest, alone. She was frightened, she was scared, she was hungry. Every rustle in the bushes was an unknown fear to her. And there alone on this morning, as she walked, she saw one place that looked like a little bit of a safe haven for her. You'll hear that there was no intent for her to vandalize or burglarize or steal or hurt anything. She was cold, she was alone, she was scared, and she was lost. And she did what any other reasonable person would do under the circumstances. She went in, hoping someone was there, but there was no one home. And she went in there just to get out of the cold, just to find a safe place to sit and find comfort until the light of day broke, until she could find her way out of there. And that's all that happened. And by the end of this case, when you've heard all the evidence, you're going to come back with a verdict of not guilty for my client. Thank you.
The state will call its first witness.
State calls Mr. Manny Barlow.
Raise your right paw. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Be seated.
State your name.
Manny Barlow.
You're also known as Papa.
Yes?
Do you mind if I call you Papa?
No, not at all.
Where are you from, Papa?
Chicago.
You're a Chicago bear.
Yes.
Do you live in Tucson now?
Only during the winter.
Why?
Winters in Chicago are unbearable.
Do you own a house in Pima County?
Yes?
Where is it?
Bear Canyon.
And did you live there on February 1st, 1986?
Yes?
Did anything unusual happen on that day?
Well, we had just gotten up from a nap, about 2 or 3 months, and Mama, that's my wife, I call her Mama, had just made some porridge, and we were sitting down to eat it, and we felt a little fuzzy, so we decided to go for a walk. We'd been gone maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and when we returned, that's when I noticed something very unusual.
Your house had been broken into?
No, that was later. I noticed the aluminum siding was peeling, and I said to Mama, that's my wife, I call her Mama, I said, Mama, we've got to call that aluminum...
Papa,
Yeah.
let me just ask you this. Was your door ajar?
No, it was a regular door, but I did notice it was open.
Was it open when you left?
I don't think so.
And what happened next?
Well, we walked in, and that's when we noticed that girl laying in little Theodore's bed.
The defendant?
Yes.
Did it look like she was on drugs?
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation. There's no evidence of that. He's trying to prejudice the jury.
Sustained.
Did you ever give her permission to enter your house?
No, none at all.
No further questions.
Defense may cross-examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. You mind if I call you Papa?
Oh, I guess not.
What kind of bear are you, Papa?
Honest, hardworking, loyal.
You're part grizzly, aren't you, sir?
Well, sometimes in the morning when I get up.
Uh-huh. And as a grizzly, that makes you a carnivore.
No, actually, I'm a Sagittarius.
You're a meat eater, aren't you?
Well, sometimes.
Uh-huh. And as a meat eater, you go out into the forest and hunt for food, don't you?
Well, yes, nuts and berries and maybe small animals.
Yeah, sometimes you go out and you actually hunt animals and kill them and eat them. Isn't that correct, sir?
But we were hunting nuts and berries.
All right, sir. Regardless of what you were hunting for that particular morning, you'd admit, wouldn't you, sir, that the forest is really not a safe place for a young girl to be alone and walking around. Isn't that correct, sir?
Well, I suppose not.
And, sir, you weren't the last one to leave your cottage, were you, the morning of this incident?
Well, no.
In fact, you were the first one to leave, weren't you? You were the one who wanted to take a walk.
Well, I guess so.
And, sir, you don't really know if the door was open or shut when you left the cottage, do you?
No, I don't.
No further questions.
Any rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor. Papa, you weren't eating any meat on that day, were you?
No, sir.
And that's why you were having porridge, isn't that right?
Yes, sir. Nuts and berries. No?
Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Call your next witness.
Call Mrs. Barlow.
Raise your right paw. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Be seated.
State your name,
Louise Barlow.
and do you go by Mama?
Yes, everybody calls me Mama. You can call me Mama, too.
Thank you.
Now, sit up straight. Stand up straight there, young man.
Yes, Mama. Are you married to Manny Barlow?
9 wonderful years.
And did you live with him on Bear Canyon Road in Pima County on February 1st, 1986?
I did.
Tell us what you did on that day.
Well, I got up a little early, a little before Papa, that's my husband, about 2 or 3 weeks before he did. And so I decided to make him some berry and nut porridge. That's his favorite. So I made some porridge, and just then Papa woke up. And he decided, wouldn't you know it, let's go for a walk, he said. So I said, okay, let's go for a walk while the porridge cools. So we woke up little Theodora, and off we went for a walk in the forest.
And how long were you gone?
Oh, not long.
Did you notice anything unusual when you returned?
I certainly did.
What was that?
Well, we just bought this aluminum siding, and...
No. Was your house broken into?
Oh, yes, it was.
Well, what did you notice about that?
Well, the first thing I noticed was Grandpa's chair. It was in shambles. It was in pieces all over the floor.
And how long had you had that chair?
My father, we call him Grandpa. Well, my father, Smokey, he made that chair almost 50 years ago, and Pop, my little son, Baby Bear, and I, we used to rock back and forth in it. Oh, it was so wonderful. But now, it's gone. I'm sorry. Do you know that about a week ago we got an offer for $500 for that chair?
Objection, Your Honor. That hearsay. I can't examine the person who may have said that. I ask that that be stricken.
Sustained. The jury will disregard the last response.
Did you get a good look at the person that you saw in your house?
Well, not really. She ran out screaming. I just saw the back of her head, but I know it was her. I'm just sure it was.
No further questions.
The defense may cross-examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I call you Mama?
You may.
Well, thank you. Mama, you have one child, is that correct?
Yes, that's my little Baby Bear.
All right, and that's little Theodore.
Right.
Okay. And, Mama, you certainly don't let little Theodore wander off alone in the woods, do you?
Oh, heavens, no.
Because it's dangerous out there, correct?
Well, right.
And if little Theodore was wandering alone out in the woods, you'd be concerned about him, wouldn't you?
Of course I would.
And certainly you'd hope that if he was lost and alone out in the woods, that he'd be able to find a house or a shelter that he could stay in until you could find him, correct?
Well, any mother would.
Of course, ma'am. Let me ask you, and I'll try, I'm not asking this to embarrass you, but how much do you weigh?
1,500 pounds, same as when I got married. Papa says I'm just a rail.
Yes, ma'am. Isn't it a fact that there have been times that you've weighed substantially more than 1,500 pounds?
Well, yes, I suppose so.
Right after Theodore was born, you weighed more than that, didn't you, ma'am?
Yes, but that was before I started doing bear aerobics. You know, I got the Jane Panda tape.
Yes, ma'am. Isn't it a fact that this chair we're discussing here, that's a wicker chair, isn't it?
Well, no, it's an antique wood chair.
Uh-huh. And ma'am, isn't it a fact that the last time you sat in that chair, you almost broke it?
No, I got up in time.
You got up in time. And isn't it a fact, ma'am, that whenever guests come over, you say to them, stay away from the rickety chair?
Oh, heavens, I don't say that. It's an antique. I would never call it that.
I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Barlow. The state will call its next witness.
Theodore Barlow.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Be seated.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense would object to young Teddy here testifying. He's really too young to understand the oath requirement, and therefore I don't think he's a competent witness.
What is your name, little bear?
My name is Theodore Barlow.
And where do you live?
I live in the woods in a cottage.
Teddy, do you know what it means to tell the truth?
No, what does it mean?
Can you tell me what it means? Do you know? Do you know the difference between the truth and a lie?
I think so.
If I were to tell you the sky is green, is that the truth or a lie?
That would be a lie.
And when these men ask you some questions, will you tell the truth?
Sure.
I find that the witness is competent.
Show my objection, Your Honor. He's just a kid.
Overruled.
Your Honor, I'm appealing to the court.
Not in that suit, you're not. Mr. Prosecutor?
Teddy, do you live with your parents?
Yes, except on weekends when I live with my grandparents.
And do you remember last year when you came home and found someone in your house?
Yes.
Tell us what happened.
She ate the porridge, she broke my chair, and then she fell asleep in my bed.
Who did that?
The blonde chick.
The defendant?
Is that the blonde chick?
Yes.
She did it.
Uh-huh. No further questions.
Mr. Justice.
Teddy, when you got back from your walk that day, you didn't see Goldilocks sitting in the chair, did you, sir?
No, it was broken.
Well, in fact, the only place you saw her, she was sleeping on a bed. Isn't that correct?
She was snoring.
She wasn't anywhere near the chair, was she?
But he said she broke it.
Uh-huh. Isn't it a fact that you never saw Goldilocks anywhere near the chair?
But I read the story.
Right. You know the difference between truth and a lie. You've said that.
Yeah.
The truth is you never saw Goldilocks break the chair.
No.
All right. Teddy, let me ask you something. The porridge that your mama makes, who likes that better, you or your dog?
What do you mean?
Isn't it a fact, Teddy, that you really don't like your mom's porridge and that you regularly give it to your dog?
No, I don't, because he doesn't like it either.
But isn't it what you did that day? You gave the porridge to your dog.
Mama!
And that's when you walked out in the woods. That's why when everybody returned, your bowl was empty.
Objection, Your Honor. He's badgering the witness.
Sustained. Counsel, don't badger the bear.
I have no further questions.
Teddy, when you left that morning, was the chair in one piece?
Yes.
And when you returned, was it in one piece?
No, it was broken in a million pieces. And Goldilocks did it, or maybe her lawyer did it.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. The jury will disregard the statement of the last witness.
Your Honor, I don't care to traumatize this poor bear anymore. I have no further questions. The state rests.
Thank you, Theodore. Mr. Justice, do you wish to call any witnesses?
Your Honor, may I confer with my client for just one moment?
You may.
At this point, the state has presented its case. Goldie and her lawyer are not required to present any witnesses. Goldie herself does not have to testify because it is up to the state to prove she is guilty. She does not have to prove she is innocent. She is conferring with her lawyer to decide if they want to present any witnesses or instead argue to the jury that the state has failed to prove its case and she should be found not guilty. This is a tense moment. What do you think she should do? Her lawyer looks like he's going to address the court.
You raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Be seated.
Would you state your name, please?
Goldilocks?
And Miss Locks, what were you doing on the night of February 1st, 1986?
Well, I was wandering through the forest. I was lost, and I was all alone. It was cold outside, and it was getting dark.
So you were lost and alone and cold.
And scared. I was scared, too.
Okay, so you were lost, alone, cold, and scared. Isn't that correct?
And hungry. Did I say hungry?
Okay, so you were lost, alone, cold, scared, and hungry, correct?
Right.
Okay. And what happened then, Miss Locks?
Well, as I was wandering through the forest, I saw a house, and I went up to the house.
And would you describe the house to the jury?
Well, it looked like a wonderful house, so safe and warm, but the aluminum siding could have used a little work.
And tell the jury what happened next, would you?
Well, I rang the doorbell.
And?
There was no one home. No one answered the door.
And so then did you go into the house?
No, then I knocked on the door.
Uh-huh. And you knocked on the door and you rang the doorbell, and then did you go into the house?
No, then I yelled to see if there was anyone inside.
And then you walked into the house?
No, one time I walked into a tree and it really hurt, so I told myself I'd never walk into a house. What I did was I opened the door and walked through the door.
Right, and then you were in the house.
Of course.
Okay, and feeling cold and alone and hungry and scared in this safe house. Tell the jury what happened next.
Well, I saw a table and it had porridge on it, and I saw beds and they looked so warm and snuggly, and I saw a chair, and I just thought I could sit down and relax in it.
Take your time. Take your time, Goldie.
And I'm sorry, and I ate some of the porridge and I sat in the chair.
And there you were, alone, hungry, scared. You sat down to rest. You were hungry. You had a little bit of food, and that's what happened in this case.
Yes.
And that's the whole story, isn't it?
That's the whole story.
I don't have any other questions.
Cross-examination.
Miss Locks, you say the only reason you ate any of the porridge is that you were hungry. Is that correct?
Yes.
You were starving. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And if you weren't so gosh darn hungry, you wouldn't have eaten any of the porridge. Isn't that right?
That's right.
Now let me ask you this, ma'am. Isn't it true that in spite of the fact that you were hungry, in spite of the fact that you were starving, isn't it true that you didn't eat the first bowl of porridge you saw because it was too hot?
Well, that's true.
And isn't it also true that you didn't eat the second bowl of porridge because it was too cold?
Yes.
And isn't it also true, as you told us here, that the reason you slept in that bed is because you were just so tired?
That's right. That's exactly right.
But isn't it also true that there were 3 beds in that residence, and you didn't sleep in the first one because it was too hard?
Yes.
And you didn't sleep in the second one because it was too soft?
Yes.
But you slept in the third one because it was just right. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right.
Are you telling this jury, Miss Locks, that you have the right to come into anyone's house just because you're cold and tired and hungry and alone?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Miss Locks, how long were you in the Bear residence?
Quite a while.
And no one told you you could go into that residence, did they?
No.
And during your prolonged prohibitive presence in that residence, you pilfered a pot of porridge, isn't that right?
But I was cold and hungry and alone.
And scared?
Yes, that too.
Nothing further.
I have no further questions, Your Honor, and the defense would rest.
Counsel may proceed with closing arguments.
Members of the jury, the state has shown to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Ms. Goldilocks, is guilty of burglary, criminal damage over $100, and theft. You've heard the story of 3 bears, your neighbors, who, minding their own business and not knowing what was in store for them, left their house one day. And unbeknownst to them, this blonde burglar crashed into their home without permission and purloined a portion of their porridge. And she broke the favorite chair of Mrs. Barlow, and you know how much it was worth. You didn't hear any evidence to the contrary. And what did she say? Why she did it? She was cold. She was tired. She was hungry. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty cold and tired, hungry, too. It's been a long trial. Does that give me the right to go and burst into your home and eat your porridge? No. But that's what she wants you to believe. Don't believe it, ladies and gentlemen. You know what this case is all about. She purposefully and plainly pinched a porcelain pot of porridge, for which she prays for your pardon. Please. She's guilty. Find her so. Thank you.
Mr. Justice, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the law in this country is that people are presumed to be innocent. We're very fortunate to live in a land where a person accused of something doesn't have to prove they're innocent. Instead, the state has to prove them guilty. They have to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's an onerous burden. That's not a preponderance or that he's or she is probably guilty. I think maybe she's guilty or probably she's guilty. That's not enough. Or it's not enough to say, I'm pretty sure she's guilty. The evidence is pretty strong. The evidence to convict must be such that you are convinced of Goldilocks' guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, we didn't have to put on a case. We didn't have to present any evidence. All we have to do is raise a doubt, but I think we've gone a lot farther than that. In fact, I think we have proved that Goldilocks was innocent. Now, let's just go through this case step by step. The prosecutor gets up in his opening statement and in his closing argument and talks to you about someone breaking into a house and going on a rampage of smashing personal property and stealing goods and going in there with the intent to steal goods. Has that really been proven to you? Have they really proved beyond a reasonable doubt that this is what happened? And let's start with every step of the way. First, Goldilocks tells you, yeah, she was frightened. This is a young girl alone in a forest. You heard, let's take the testimony of Mama Bear. You heard Mama Bear out of her own mouth. She said, if it was my child out there, a bear, teddy bear, if he was out there, she would be worried about him. She'd be concerned. She'd want him to go into a place where he could be safe until someone came and found him. Well, all we ask is that you give the same consideration and understand what Goldilocks was going through and just give her the same kind of consideration that Mama Bear gives to her child. That's what we want here. Broke in the place, broke into the house and went on a rampage. Did you hear any evidence, folks, about breaking in? Did you see any evidence about doors being pried open or scuff marks on the door or a hatchet or a crowbar being taken to a door? There was no break-in here. What happened here was she was lost, she was scared. She rang the doorbell. She wanted to know if someone is inside. If you're going in to rob a place, do you want to know if someone's inside? Do you ask someone, hey, is anybody there, and announce who you are? Of course not. And when there was no one there, the door was open and she went in. Next, they talk about this. She went on this rampage of destruction. She destroyed a chair. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it out of Mama Bear's mouth. This was an old chair. Remember when I asked Mama Bear, I said, Mama Bear, isn't it a fact that when you sat in the chair last time, and Mama Bear, she's a bear. She weighs 2,000 pounds. She sat in that chair and it almost broke. She just barely got up in time. Now, do you really think that Goldilocks intentionally smashed this chair for no reason? And there is no reason. The prosecutor hasn't given you a reason here. Of course not. This was a very fragile chair. A touch would break this chair. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what happened here. And I don't think they've proved to you beyond a reasonable doubt that she went on some rampage to smash things. And finally, this porridge, this purloined, pilfered porcelain porridge. Pooey! Ladies and gentlemen, if you were going in with the intent to steal something, would you go in and take porridge? I mean, ladies and gentlemen, what are you going to do? Go to the swap meet and sell this stuff? I mean, is this stuff worth any money? You take Papa's pipe, the VCR, some of the stuff worth something. Who goes in to steal porridge? She was cold. She was hungry. She was trying to act reasonably. She was asking for help. Please give my client the same consideration that all of us as parents share for our children. And when you come back with the evidence, you're going to find beyond a reasonable doubt she was not proven to have broken in and stolen things and gone on a rampage. She was a scared young girl alone in a forest doing what any reasonable person under circumstances would do. Thank you.
Because the state has the burden of proof, the The prosecutor has the opportunity to make the final argument to you. Mr. Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, the defense has suggested to you that Goldilocks did not commit burglary because she knocked on the door, she rang the doorbell, she yelled, and no one was home. Have you ever gone to your friend's house, knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, yelled, and no one was home? What do? Do you go into the house? You go home. No one is home. You have no right to be there. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, Ms. Locks? No, she says, that's not right. Yeah, you have the right to go in there as long as you're cold and you're tired and you're hungry and alone. The city is full of people cold, tired, hungry, and alone, and she wants you to open your houses up to them, regardless of who they are or what business they have being there, just because they're cold, tired, hungry, and alone. We've all been there at one time or another, but that does not mean that we can all go into each other's houses whenever we choose. You know that's not what it means, and don't buy it. There's been no evidence that she broke the chair. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to bed and there's no snow on the ground, and you wake up and there's snow on the ground, what does that tell you? It snowed during the night. If the Bears left their residence and the chair was in one piece, and they came back and the chair was in 1,000,000 pieces, what does it tell you? The chair was broken. You don't have to have a PhD to figure that out. She broke the chair, and you know she broke the chair. Finally, no one would steal porridge. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to prove that Goldilocks was a smart burglar. I just have to prove that she was a burglar. I don't care what she stole. The point of the matter is that she stole something, and that's all I have to prove. And it's been proven. Find her guilty. Thank you.
The jury shall now be excused to reach its verdict.